Like, we struck gold in the quote department here. It was so good. Let's not leave our stories untold. Heya, welcome to Creators Lightbulb, the podcast about the indie animation community. I'm your host, Gigi, and in today's episode, I have with me...
I'm Ellis Bertrell. I'm an actor and voice talent.
We're in the works to not only stay inspired, but motivated. So whether you're looking to light your creative spark or struggling to keep that light bulb aflame, we got your back either way. Whether you're multitasking or relaxing, I hope you enjoy your time here. And without further ado, let's begin. Let's start off with our little segment called The Light Bulb. Every creator has a spark in them somewhere, and we're figuring out how they got started. So yeah, who are you?
I say the words that you hear the characters saying when you watch the thing. That's me. Yeah.
Like, shocker, they don't speak on their own, I fear. But originally, like, the reason when I put you in like season 2 is because you were the voice actor of Hornet from the Dream Warrior, my series, and it has been a very long while since then. And I'm going to say throughout Creators Lightbulb, probably until the day I die, that the Dream Warrior is in a very unsure status right now. But it's always so nice to like look back and like talk to the people that helped make episode 1 come true. And like, you're on there. It's crazy.
I am in fact on there.
Yeah. And so do you have other like roles that you've booked since then that you like would like to share?
Yeah. The two big ones that I'm really happy about and that I can talk about without getting in trouble are Outsider Trading, where it's a silly little cosmic horror comedy about, these extra dimensional beings that invest in species, and humans are one of the species they invest in. Where I play Elzo Stobbs, who's this like tech bro. He's kind of like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. They all merged into one cosmic being. Oh,
so the great evil.
Yeah, that's Elzo Stobbs for you. And then I'm Mace Guido, who is it's half of a two-headed news reporter. I don't make it sound as cool as it, I can tell it, whatever. And I do some other stuff on there. And then another is a new indie series called Pieces of Powder.
I love that show.
Yeah, by Ikoku. I play Kyler in that.
I love Pieces of Powder. It's so...
Really?
Yeah, and I saw that you were like on voice acting for it, and I was like, oh my god, I know him.
Yeah.
And so like I'm been keeping like updated with the series because I discovered that his pilot came out, and I was like, ooh, if I need flashbacks to the high school experience, this is it, man.
Yeah, I'm so glad that people are so happy about it.
It's so good. I wish you and him like nothing but the best of luck. I think it's incredible. I love the
such
indie
a cool guy.
community.
I love that guy. I'm gonna say the thing now because I know what it is. I looked at it. Follows the story of Powder, teenage girl dealing with all kinds of insecurities and anxieties that are impacting her life and her relationships. When out of nowhere she meets a Marcy, who is quite a character. She compliments Powder, and we follow Powder's high school journey, and you watch their bond deepen. You should check it out. I mean, it's really cool. Pieces of Powder, piecesofpowder.com. There's one other thing that I booked recently that I can't talk about, but believe me, when it's out, you will all know, and you will all be very super proud of me.
He's under NDA, which makes him a professional. So yeah, what inspired you to, get started? Because what makes you like different from like what most people that I know of who've entered this community of like starting off with voice acting. I heard that you're actually like been in films and like done this. You have a professional background. So
for me, my acting journey started when I think I might have been like 6 or 7. I was watching Disney XD, and I was watching Jessie. And, because I love that show so much. I was watching it, and then this was back during the time where sometimes Disney, during their commercial breaks, they would have these little like behind the scenes segments where they would just be hanging out watching people recording. And, I'd seen it a couple times, but one day I was watching it and it just clicked to me. Wow, these people look so happy doing this, and I feel so happy watching them. I want to spread that feeling to more people. And so, I start bugging my parents. I'm like, I have to be on TV. I have to be on TV. And so, at first they think it's a phase, because why wouldn't they think it's a phase? I'm like, well, and so, but no, I just keep pestering, and they're like, oh man, he's not letting this go. So my wonderful, loving mother, she signed me up for a program called Kids Management, and they deal mostly in background work. And so that's how I got my first few television and film gigs. And from there, I just kind of did that for a long time. And then when I got to middle school, I was like, I've been doing background for a long time, but I still don't really understand acting as much as I think I could or should. So that's when I started getting into theater. And, I did musicals, and it was really cool and fun. But then the thing happened.
This has been a recurring theme amongst both 2 episodes that I have recorded so far, and I don't think the train is going to stop. What's the big thing, Ellis? What's the big thing? Please enlighten us.
Well, in late 2019, early 2020, the world shut down. So I was like, I'm gonna kill someone if I can't perform. So that's when I started getting into voiceover.
Yeah, natural reaction, to be honest. Yeah, COVID just changed, definitely changed the industry. Some may argue for the worst or the better, but I think the thing we can all agree on is it did open a lot of opportunity for people to scream into microphones online.
Oh, most definitely.
So that's really, it's expected in a good way to hear that. That's what jump started you into voice acting. That transition between what was the first show that you got a booking for?
It was a show called Legendary Dudas on Nickelodeon. It had 1 season, and I was background and I was a stand-in on the show. That's the one that I think of as my first, even though technically I had done things before it. But it's the one where it's like, oh yeah, that one's it's got a key part in my memory. I was a lot closer to the cast and to the others than I was when I was doing background. So that's why I was like, this one, it just stays in my mind more.
I can imagine your younger self being this is the mission of I want to be those people on Jessie. I can imagine, did you enter this space with that mindset of oh, I want to be happy like that, or I want to make other people smile like that? And did it grow to be something else or something more?
Yeah. It started out really wholesome and pure. Now I want to pay my rent. But yeah, no, I mean, no, I've always, even to this day, I still like making people happy, and that's kind of the only motivation I have for doing it. Obviously, I love it too, but I want to make them happy and I want to make me happy. That's it.
And then with entering voice acting and stuff like that, did you look into a professional way of entering voiceover, or did you look at for instance Casting Call Club or YouTube?
I started with Casting Call Club because I don't really know how I got there. I don't remember how I arrived at it. I just remember using it. I think I had looked up hey, voiceover auditions and stuff like that. But I think that's all I really looked up. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular because I just wanted something to be able to express myself and just have some fun. But it turned out I learned pretty fast. I'm I'm actually kind of decent at this thing. It's easy to think that it's something different. So I'm oh, that's weird. I'm good at this too. So maybe I can go and pursue more. But no, when I got into it, I was just whatever will take me, I will do.
That's the mentality that a lot of us enter this community at. And then you gradually build what standards you set for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we need to set ourselves into a higher, a lower or higher limbo bar? Realize that our time and effort is worth it, I guess. I don't know. Does that sound egotistical?
No, I think that's reasonable. I mean, they're asking for your time, your equipment, your training if you have it. I think it's reasonable to be in that position of like, hey, look, I gotta be selfish here. Caring for yourself, I will say.
Have you gotten any like paid gigs thus far? Or you're looking to?
Yeah.
I see that you have commercial and like character voice reels in your website. So I'm assuming that like, if anyone wants to pay me, please.
I've gotten more paid gigs recently.
That's awesome.
Is how I will word that, because I don't want to go and be like, man, these brokies are beneath me. Like, I don't want to come across like that. But yeah,
no,
I have.
Not at all.
I've been getting some payment.
Yeah, I think that's the goal for like anyone that has kind of started voice acting in this community. It feels good to like have a couple of dollars under your name because you're doing this silly little thing. Of course, not really actually silly, but like it's fun. Like, I mean, the first time I got paid was like I was doing voiceover for someone over the phone, and I got like less than $3 out of it because of my rates or a rate I made up on the spot.
Yeah.
So like, you know what? Money is money. We'll take it. When you started transitioning to voiceover, did you have any like sources that you looked into, or like similar or familiar feeling of like when seeing those like people on screen and being like, I'm inspired by them? Like, did you find that spark?
It was like this year and last year, I started getting really into Ben Schwartz, because he's a big improv guy. I'm a big improv guy. He's got the silly characters. He's a really comedic sort of actor, and I just like him a lot.
I'm not really like an improv person.
Really?
It's so easy for, I think, anyone in that spot to be doubting every single move that they do if it's like stupid.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I see it all the time. Because I think what happens a lot is people get it into their heads that they have to make something happen with improv. But I mean, you don't have to make anything happen. You just need to be able to follow what's currently happening.
So you said you did musicals, which, Ellis, I didn't know you could sing. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, I did do that. On The Theory of Relativity,
Oh my God, I love that show.
I've done Singing in the Rain. Really, that's okay. This is what's very interesting to me, because I was always really out of place when I did musicals, because for one, film background, but also like I was the only one who never knew what any of the shows were, like going into them.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, they're like, how is anyone casting you? How do you not know what Hairspray is, Ellis? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I
didn't know what Hairspray was until like last year. So we're on the same boat. Are you continuing stage performances, or you want to, or are you like looking into that? Or
I'm on the fence about it, because with film and voiceover, there's always that sort of safety net of like, on whatever, like when I get to the session, even when I'm in the session or when I'm on set, I don't have to do it perfectly the first time. I know that you have the rehearsals, and on film we have rehearsals too. But even on film, it's like, hey man, for the most part, it's going to be something of like, hey, we only have so many like water balloons, or we only have so many slices of cake or whatever, or so many Twinkies, or it's like, so you can still only mess up so many times. But like, you have times to mess up. Whenever I'm on stage, and I'm very fortunate that it hasn't happened yet, I get so afraid that like, oh my God, what if today's the day? What if today is the day? Actually, that's not true. I was wrong. It has happened. It wasn't for anything major, but I was doing a play for a friend of mine who was in a directing class, and it was his final show, and everything was perfect until my very last line. But whatever, I turned it into a cute little character moment. I don't need to be perfect. I'm cool with not being perfect. That's part of why I like film and voiceover. Because I can, hey, I'm not really feeling that. Let's do one more take. I notice this a fair bit among actors, and obviously I'm no exception. I think we forget so often that we live with ourselves 24/7. So like obviously I'm going to notice if like, oh, my hand went way too high just now. But it's like, anyone else, it's like, Oh, he put his hand up. Okay, whatever.
Like, bro, whatever. It's like, it's really not, like, in the best way. Sometimes it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, coming to assume then that voice acting probably puts a lot less pressure on the in the moment kind of mentality.
I think the actor's mentality is sort of the one constant where, there's always going to be that thing of like, I'm probably not doing this right, or I'm not doing it well enough, or, oh gosh, or what if that guy thinks I'm stupid? Oh, am I the first actor that this intern is seeing here today, or whatever it is? That's the one I think is the most common about all of them. And I know that that's not necessarily about the medium itself, and it's about the whatever. I've noticed the thing in film that challenges people the most. I think it's really just taking things personally or not taking things personally enough. There's always this belief that like, oh, whatever good thing or bad thing is happening to me, it's because I'm me, and it's not anything to do with something completely out of my control. Like, maybe that director was in a bad mood because he had a bad sandwich, or maybe they didn't cast me because I look too much like someone's ex who just got out of a bad breakup or whatever.
Jeez.
Like, sometimes it's just not about you.
All issues don't revolve around us.
Yeah, there's still people. But it's like, in stage, I notice people are like actively malicious.
If the voice acting community was like that, I would have left like years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we have one foot in the door and then we back out.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, we are welcoming, is what I like to say. So,
for voice, I noticed that there is a failure to do research. I notice people, because it's a really easy fantasy to buy into. I'm going to buy a microphone, I'm going to say the words, and I'm going to succeed. It's really easy to buy into that. So I get so many people, almost daily, will ask me a question, and I'm like, you texted me. That means you have a phone, which means you could have looked this up. But whatever. And then the other is, I noticed that this is a challenge. I don't think it's always a bad thing, but I noticed that it is a struggle for some people to get out of. It's excessive praise. I noticed so many people, they can't just, say, hey, that's not it, Chief. It's always, wow, that was so good, so awesome, oh my gosh. But maybe we could, I don't know, potentially try this the other way. But being polite, giving praise or whatever, I find that it encourages people to not take suggestions aboard. Because, you're saying like, hey, I really did like that. But what if in the future it's like, well, who cares? You liked it, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about you, person listening. And if I am, maybe, I don't know, go to my PayPal, give me money. And I'll know that I was wrong about you and that you're absolutely deserving of praise.
Yeah, I think a lot of like the I'm gonna put that in quotes, like the generosity of that kind of stuff is being afraid to like hurt other people's feelings. Which I've fallen guilty into that like a lot of times. But if I go and ask for a retake, I'll ask for a retake. Like,
right.
I feel like the medium speaks for itself when it comes to voice acting, because a lot of it is like behind the screen, and speaking from experience, like a lot of us go into this because we have like fantasies of like acting, and like I have many vivid memories of, like, for instance, reading off character lines in video games such as Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and like doing different voices and like being like very hidden about that kind of creativity, that when you're behind a screen and anonymous, no one can judge you for it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you found like a community of people that like the same things that you do, and you don't feel like you're condescended for it, which is, like just kind of just a regular fear based on like different niches and, the people in it.
I find a lot of times whenever I'm giving feedback to someone, it always has this implication that they feel like I'm trying to be rude to them. I'm like, don't make this like this, please. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm just telling you the truth. Because obviously my goal, is, at least when I'm giving feedback, is not to spare someone's feelings. That's just, it's not my goal. It's not my job. I'm just trying to tell you what I'm noticing. That's all I'm doing. There's no need to come and be like, hey, man, I think you're just hating on me. I'm like, why would I be hating on you? Like, my thing is whenever that happens, I'm like, who do you think you are that I would dislike you?
I've never heard such a nice thing said so bluntly like that in that tone. But like it holds truth. Like I think yeah, and then feedback a lot of the time, as you may also feel that like, can be taken personally and the criticism is attack on character. But guys,
It can, but again, like, I mean, my thing that I've always, well, I won't say always. I think it happens a lot that they hear feedback and they're like, they assume they're being told that they're doing something wrong. But it's like, that's not what this is. You don't have to listen to the feedback. You don't have to take it on board. But at least for me, usually if I'm giving feedback, it's because someone's asked for feedback. You can't ask me what I think about the thing and then be mad that I told you what I thought about the thing.
it's the creative conundrum of like, I want feedback, but it's just compliments. Like, guys, you can just ask for compliments. It's okay.
Yeah.
I will think of you more if you do. Like, don't
absolutely.
like. I think it's okay. Like, I think we do crave to be validated.
Feedback, like, I don't ever half-ass feedback. For me, it could take me up to an hour to like really just think about it, type it out, and hear. So for me, it's always like, listen, this takes my time, it takes my energy, it takes occasionally my money because I'm spending time doing this that I could be doing other things. Like, look, I don't care if you waste my money because I'll get more. I don't care if you waste my energy, I'll get more. If you waste my time, I'm not getting that back. Do not ask me for feedback if you don't want feedback.
It's like everyone is so much more accessible. Resources are so much more accessible. And remembering back to the comment you said about like, oh, we can like something about like taking like with our voices or something like that with like.
It's an easy fantasy to buy into that I can buy a microphone, I can say words, and suddenly I'll be successful.
When you said fantasy, that like really struck me because I like understood immediately of like, it happens everywhere of like you think that like something is going to be so like easy and bustling and like this stardom feeling.
Yeah.
And I was very like prone to it too when I got my first role. I think this is like bad for everyone that's entering the community, and I wouldn't like in the most like coming from a good place way, I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. But when I auditioned for the first time for something, I got the role. I would not wish that upon anyone that's entering, because then you kind of get the mentality of like, oh, I'm already good enough as it is.
Right. I think like I'm in a similar boat because I did book my first voiceover audition, but I was already kind of humbled by the fact, I'd been acting by that point for like maybe 8 to 10 years. So I was like, I understand that this is not like a normal occurrence.
This is not me to say that like everyone that booked like their first audition is, unwilling to improve. But for me, it was like, I think it put a little bit more of a barrier to it. And I gained an ego quite fast that I was willing to talk about it in high school. And I'm really grateful for those opportunities. But I think it does set like you back a little bit. And like I had to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, when I don't get roles, it is not about me. The most I can do is improve on my own end. The reality of being in the entertainment industry from a young age, like I feel like that definitely maybe shapes your perception of the world.
Absolutely. I feel like it's part of the reason why I am just as a person pretty critical, but also, I think it's part of the reason why, I take things, I would say, more easily than a lot of other people. But no, I think especially part of it was growing up in LA. You learn really fast that people, I won't say that people don't care about you necessarily, but like they have so much on their plates that you're not really the only thing they're thinking about. You're probably not even in the top 5, so you gotta stand out. You gotta really put that effort forward. You can't wait for things to fall into your lap.
Yeah, because I can imagine, like, first of all, LA, crazy. I think it's a crazy place to be growing up. Like, the constant like promise and image of stardom and
Oh
like
yeah.
making it.
I'm like maybe 15 minutes from Hollywood, and I find so many people who have moved out here for because like, oh my gosh, this is where I'm gonna make it. But it'll always be someone who like, I won't say always. I've always met people like this. It's not that this is who they all are, right? But it'll always be somewhere it's like, I got 100 views on my like TikTok clip or whatever. I'm like, you can't see my facial expression, but I'm in disbelief. I'm like, why did you? And they'll be
This is
moving
funny.
from like ridiculous places.
The thing with that kind of stuff, and like maybe this can apply to the voice acting community in a way, but like there is never oh my god. This is from Arcane season 2 of all places. Something with one of the characters saying that like there is never a goal to perfection, just an end to a pursuit. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, like we struck gold in the quote department here. It was so good.
That is facts.
There is no prize to perfection, only an end to pursuit.
But like that's so true with just like anything, like especially when it comes to like creative pursuits. And like it seems like a very general statement, but to apply it to, you know, the indie animation community, it's like there comes a point where we might just have to like settle for the things that like we currently have and make the best out of them. And like,
Oh, absolutely.
You don't need the fanciest equipment.
Funnily enough, I was booking national and international work on a microphone that cost me less than $300, and it was also backwards on the inside, and I didn't notice for months.
Oh my god. How does that happen?
So never let it be said that your equipment is the biggest determinant factor. That's like your mic is probably 20% of all that nonsense.
I tell people that I probably would have started earlier if I just knew I could use my goddamn phone.
Yeah.
And like you kind of subconsciously know that, but for me it was like I need something better. Like I don't sound good enough. It's the equipment, I swear.
I agree though. I mean, I do think that having something more expensive or something that's specifically a microphone, I see the point in it, and I buy a fair few, partially because I like collecting them because they feel good, but also like
Real.
like when you're thinking about, you know, you're working with people and you're working with companies or anyone who's casting for something, you got to remember like people are biased. If somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I recorded this on my cell phone, I'm like, it could sound amazing. I don't know if I'm going to trust you with that. If nothing else, it tells me either you aren't taking it seriously or you're using that because it's all you've got, you know? So I'm like, I don't know if I can trust you with that. So I totally understand having a microphone anyway, because I have so many that I have in my home that I just don't even use.
I understand the whole that goes two ways, being like, I'm just going to, like, with one mentality being like, I have to make do with what I have currently because, you know, I unfortunately can't afford that right now, and like settling for the laziest option possible. It's really hard to differentiate on like a first impression basis. And like, especially though with like this community in general of like, this probably sounds a little harsh, but like phones will work out for as far as it's going to go. Like, I don't think anyone's really wanting anyone to record on a phone if it's a big indie project.
Here's a little secret. Most phones made within the last like decade and change probably are good enough. And I do have a clip for that. 2 clips technically.
Hey, what's good? This is Ellis Bertrell, recording in my bathroom to demonstrate what acoustic treatment is good for. I don't know yet, but regardless, give me the power I need to save someone! Notice how that sounds really bad. And this is me recording in an acoustically treated space. Still on my phone. I don't know yet, but regardless, give me the power I need to save someone!
I think phones are really good for auditions. Like, I think it's fine. I remember recording my first ever audition in the Samsung tablet, and ooh, that was bad. Like, oh, it's so crunched. Even though we're talking fancy about like equipment and stuff like that, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like if you are audible and if you got what it takes and you're willing to improve, I think that's all you really need. I think funnily enough, this is a good starting place if you really are thinking about getting serious, because there's no stakes. If you decide it's not for you, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to our intermission. Feel free to pause the episode for a bit. Drink water, get a snack, take care of yourself. We'll be right back. I think if it's okay with you, we can transition to a little game called On the Spot Voice Reel for a minute. For a minute and 30 seconds, we're going to see how well you can demonstrate your voice acting abilities under time-induced panic.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
I never asked for these powers, but if I have them, I'm gonna use them to protect this city. Oh, come on. Where's your sense of adventure? Trust me, this is gonna be epic. Just follow my lead. Don't look down. Think I enjoy this? The chaos, the destruction. I never wanted any of it. By the light of the stars, I did it. I actually did it. Professor will be so proud. I get it. You're worried about me. I gotta live my own life, you know? Make my own choices. Can't stay in your shadow forever.
40 seconds.
Listen, buddy. Sometimes you gotta take the leap. Even if you don't know where you're gonna land. Behold, the Retro Encabulator! It peels, it slices, dices, just one push of a button and... Uh-oh. We stand on the brink of history, my friends. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for our future! For honor, for glory, for freedom, baby! All right. I trained for this. Running back now. Traveler.
Okay. Your time is up. Dude, that was so good.
That was spooky and scary.
I know, right? It's insane. It's so fun because, like, it's an idea I came up with on a whim, but it's so interesting to see how, like, voice actors, like, come up with things on the spot. And you, again, have your improv brain. So I think it worked out really well. Thank you for doing that. That was great.
Yeah, no problem.
Moving on to our curiosity Q&A, where we pull questions from Discord members. At the time of recording this, the production of Critter's Lightbulb is unknown, so I was pulling from like a couple of years ago, but in Ellis's case, his friends so generously offered questions. So let's just pretend this is it is technically Discord. Thanks, Ellis. Anyway.
Yay.
Yay. From Ink-Covered Pyrite, how do you build connections within the acting and voiceover community without feeling overly transactional?
For me, it's really is as simple as talking to people, taking an interest. In my acting classes, I got to know my coaches. I made friends with the people learning alongside me. For me, the key to networking, don't network, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because people, they can tell when you're only talking to them because you think it'll benefit you. It is abundantly clear. And I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about it is that, I have to talk to the people who are already above me where I want to be. But yeah, I mean, getting to know your peers, the people who are learning and growing right next to you, just as valuable, if not more. We were talking earlier about a buddy of mine who was in a directing class in college. I volunteered to act for one of his projects because I had experience and I liked him as a person. He's a cool guy. A few months later, he connected me with someone who was looking for audiobook narrators. And so that, it progressed because you don't know where someone's going to be. You don't know where they've been. Other time, I was casually just chatting about silly nonsense with a casting director. And a year or two later, I ended up auditioning for her. And that showed her I was a good actor, but she already had a frame of reference for who I was as a person. That can make all the difference. I mean, end of the day, ask yourself, who would you rather hire? Someone who you barely know, who handed you a business card, or a person you've seen be consistently kind, reliable, and able to do what they do? What I notice a lot of people, they have it in their heads that like, oh, if I just have a big enough list of contacts, then I'm going to make it. But I mean, that's just not what a connection is. That's not what a network is.
From another someone, what advice would you give to someone just starting out in the voiceover industry?
I guess the biggest one, don't go into it trying to prove yourself. Acting, whether it's on stage or on screen or behind the mic or whatever, it's always a journey of growth and a journey of learning. So those things are always going to take time. You don't need everything figured out on day one. And honestly, this is something that I think so many of you need to hear. You can wait on a demo. And then here's a mindset thing. If it sounds like you need a job, it will sneak into how you approach it. Casting directors can feel desperation. Even if you don't notice it, they can hear it. When you can shift from needing something to wanting it for its own sake, immediately more authentic. Because the difference between booking a role and being passed over, a lot of times it comes down to confidence. Not the belief that like, hey, I'm better than y'all or whatever, but that quiet self-assurance. Even if you're unsure, approach the audition like you are exactly the person they're looking for and you know it. It will show. And I would like to think, I don't know if this is why, I would like to think that had some bearing on why I was cast in The Dream Warrior and Piece of Powder.
No, I could speak from my own perspective of like, yeah, like not only did the voice like fit for Hornet, you were willing to, do the, what's it called again? Callback? Callback. Thank you. You were willing to do the callback, and you were also willing to, get feedback from me. I was confident in casting you because you definitely it showed that you had the experience. You didn't have to say that outright or be cocky about it at all. And you're a nice, mellow guy. And I'm like, okay, I look forward to working with you. From someone, part 3, how do you approach creating unique and memorable voices for different characters?
This is going to be a little embarrassing. I don't really do that thing. I usually don't focus on, making voices as you heard earlier during the on the spot thing. I'm more of a character guy. You're a lot more likely to hear me change my mindset than my voice. I'm not a fan of difference for the sake of difference. A lot of actors, and I think a lot of specifically voice talent, I noticed that a lot of the time they approach every role like they're trying to get away from themselves, to be somebody else every single time. And if that works for you, that's awesome. That's really cool. More power to I can talk. More power to you. For me, it's easier to think of every character as a version of me, who I could be if my life had gone differently, than it is to be someone else. Because for me, it's a lot harder to try and live as someone else and try to keep in mind all of those, different assets and idiosyncrasies and blah, 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 than it is to just be me adjusted to fit someone else's circumstances. Mm-hmm. I mean, that said, I'm only one actor. That's just what works for me. Whatever is working and getting you work, do that.
I understand exactly what you mean, because it's a very common misconception that the more voices you can do and the more impressions that you can do, the better you are. And it's it's not the case. It should never be a layer of unauthenticity.
Yeah.
I completely agree with everything you said. I think you worded it beautifully, that it's not a different version. It's not a different things separate from ourselves. But when we're acting, you amplify parts of that's how I approach it. I amplify parts of myself and like rediscover different like routes of my life. And like, I like approaching it from that too. And I think a lot of people would agree. Do you think it puts a different like feeling or lens to like putting yourself in someone else's shoes in a way?
In a sense, because like, again, like I can grasp sort of like I can see, for example, like, oh, hey, if I'm doing this, it's making you feel this way. That's probably because of this factor, right? But again, if you were to do that to me, even if I were to feel the same way, you wouldn't see me like gritting my teeth or like whatever, unless I was playing it up for effect or it was something like wildly out of pocket.
Everyone views the world differently and like perceives it in their own mindset. So like that's just kind of the natural part of being a human being. And I think acting helps us empathize.
100%.
That's the word.
100%.
So yeah. Moving on, from Someone Squared, what mistakes you see new talent making and how can they avoid them?
Golly, there's a list. If you've ever spoken to me about acting or voiceover or literally anything of that nature, I have so many things. Oh my gosh. The first, soundproofing versus acoustic treatment. These are different things. One keeps sound out, the other makes your recording sound good. You need acoustic treatment more than you need soundproofing. You can avoid making this mistake by using the computer you're messaging me on and looking it up. The second one, and this one segues into some other stuff, but we'll talk about it later. Demo. Not demo reel. People have not used reels for anything in decades. Just call it your demo. There is one exception. A show reel or like a visual reel, because there's not really an alternative name for those. Mm-hmm. With demo, just call it your demo.
So hypothetically, if I were to make a voice acting demo, I don't have to say demo reel or like...
You do not. You do not. Because again, like a reel, we call it a reel because of like physical reels of either tape or what do you call it? Or film reels. Because that's what, that's why we call them reels. And no one has used a reel for anything. Though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In a while. But yeah. The third, announcing auditions or like announcing your intent to audition. That thing you do where it's like, hey, I would love to audition for this. Yeah, dude, I'm going to send an audition the second I get home. Or posting about every audition you do. I understand that people think that it's like, oh, hey, I'm always, eager to go. I'm ready to do the job. I want to do the job. But it rarely sends that message. More often than not, it comes across as really desperate. These are two that, and then this is kind of the same. These are also language things. This one is like, these are just pet peeves of mine. Like, thanks for the opportunity bugs me a fair bit. Because who's giving you an opportunity? Casting is not charity. It's a professional relationship. Thanks for your time or thanks for your consideration or something to that effect works better because that's actually what you're getting.
Huh, I never thought about it like that. I mean, I've said thanks for the opportunity before. And I mean, not really in like a description of a video or like, I don't know. I feel like I've definitely said it in some kind of context before, mm-hmm. But I like thinking about like it being like, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Or not energy, but thanks for your time. Like, I think that's more general, but also hits the message better.
Yeah.
Because, I guess like opportunity would be like something given to you, right?
Yeah.
And then like, but it's an opportunity for the whole, whoever sees it. So I understand that perspective. That's interesting.
Yeah. This one, critiquing your own work. You don't get to decide if your work is good or bad. That's not up to you. Do not tell someone, sorry for your performance. Don't tell them you think it sucks. You're priming them to dislike it. You are putting it into their head that it is not worth their time. You are making things harder for yourself when you do that. It's just that, the language matters. And finally...
Don't assume.
Yeah. And finally, understand this. Practice versus learning. You cannot get better at something if you don't understand what you're trying to improve. Practice refines skills you already have. If the foundation isn't there, you're just repeating mistakes. You need to learn and then practice what you learned. This one is, what is a demo? A demo is a professionally directed, recorded, and produced audio example of you doing your very best work, your absolute best. Not your pretty good, not your I gave it a shot, your best. It immediately communicates to people that you're ready to be hired on professional level projects. This is like, you could think of it as like a signature dish as a performer. Carefully crafted, it's taste tested, it's presented on your finest china. You hand over something labeled as a demo, this is what you're saying. In the absolute best conditions, in the hands of professional writers, directors, recording artists, and on a professional production, this is what I bring to the table. This is the standard I hold myself to. This is the standard you should hold me to every single time you see my name. A sample, on the other hand, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a sample of your voice, your current abilities, your style. It's not pretending to be your absolute peak under ideal conditions. It's a snapshot of where you are right now. Sample says, hey, this is me. This is as I am right now. Take a listen, see if there's potential, and let's go from there. The expectations are much lower because it's not being presented as a final product. This would be inviting someone into your kitchen for like a taste test that you're working on. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to show there's something that's worth paying attention to. And this distinction is very, very important because obviously when you label something as a demo, when you label a sample as a demo, when you label anything as a demo, you're setting the listener up with a certain expectation. They're about to hold your work to the highest industry standard. And if it falls short, if the writing feels off, if the audio quality isn't pristine, if the performances lack polish or direction, it's going to be seen as a work in progress. It'll be seen as a failed demo. You call it a sample, listener knows what they're walking into, they're more forgiving, they're more open, and they're less inclined to immediately disqualify you. Are you ready for a demo? Maybe, maybe not. What the questions that I like to ask are these. Have you undergone at least 6 months of consistent and intensive acting training? This is going to be with a coach. Do you have access to or know how to set up a solid recording space? Are you capable of writing copy that feels like it could come from a real production? And you edit audio at a professional level? Are you getting enough reputable work that justifies the investment in a demo? Are you receiving frequent requests for a demo from potential clients or agents? If you can't confidently say yes to at least 5 of those questions, you probably do not need a professionally produced demo. And that's fine, because samples exist for that exact reason.
Go figure.
Yeah, and this one, these two are very, I know, they're kind of intensive. But yeah, like, it's a collaborative project involving, you know, you need people who know what they're doing at every stage. You have writers, you have directors, you have audio engineers, you have editors, you have producers. They aren't just there to make you sound good. They're there to say no and to tell you when something isn't working, when a take isn't hitting, or when a script doesn't fit your strengths. That outside perspective is invaluable, and it's something that you simply cannot replicate by yourself. Yeah, there are plenty of subpar demos that, if they'd been presented as samples, would have been amazing, perfectly fine. Because they said, hey, this is me at my absolute best, fell flat.
Yeah, I understand that. That's very hardcore mentality, some may think, but I think it is, from a professional standard, everything you're saying is valid. For this community, might scare some people off. Because I, like, when I was doing more consistent like demos, they were the best of my ability by myself, you know, and like, that's fine. For this community, if I probably sent it out professional standard, then I'd probably be laughed at.
Yeah, and again, like the thing is not like don't make your own things or whatever. If you do, just call it a sample. That's all I'm saying. That's the message here. Call it a sample.
Good
please.
To know that I'm gonna call my demo a voice acting sample now. But that's good to know. I like hearing about the, you know, difference between professional versus like here, because we're not all professionals and that kind of stuff can scare us. I'm just gonna go on the record saying that you do not have to take this advice personally if you're doing it for fun, and if you do not plan on doing it professionally, because like that kind of stuff is scary. But it's good to know, I think, just generally, like in the back of your head, so you can make less people angry. But yeah, I think that's very helpful advice, and Thank you for sharing.
In a similar vein to that, a low quality do not consider pile.
A what?
When someone listens to your demo or what you've labeled as a demo and it fails to meet industry expectations, it doesn't disappear into the void, it gets filed. And not in some neutral like heard it kind of way, but in like it usually gets sorted into either the mental or literal folder titled low quality do not consider.
That's so scary.
Yeah. And obviously being put in this folder has a reputation. So the thing is for bigger companies, the first set of ears on whatever you've sent in usually isn't the casting director or the head of production. It's usually an assistant.
Yeah, makes sense.
Someone who's been tasked, filter through this mountain of submissions so their boss doesn't have to waste time on it. These assistants are not just passive note takers. They're trusted to have taste. Their job isn't to say, this is cool. They also are supposed to flag names and patterns. If a submission is sloppy, underproduced, poorly performed, just feels weird, they don't discard it, they remember it. And here's the kicker, assistants talk. There is always someone like me on there who will tell the casting director, the producer, whoever needs to know, hey, just so you know, if you see Tom Johnson, don't waste your time.
Your social credibility and currency, blah, 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 blah. Down the drain, baby.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, even if you improve later, even if you produce like a stellar thing to send out, there's already that wall between you and the people you want to impress.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't like them trying to be mean or vindictive or whatever. It's purely about efficiency. Mm-hmm. If you've told them like, hey, this is my best, the peak of my ability, and it wasn't up to par, why should I gamble on you again when I could listen to people who have already shown, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's a risk assessment tool. And I trust this person to deliver under whatever conditions I set. Are they consistent? And the most important question that that every casting director is asking, regardless of whether it's like an indie thing or a big, massive thing, will they make my job easier or harder? Mm-hmm. That is what you should be thinking about. Are you making someone's job easier or are you making it harder?
From someone third to the second to the... From someone to the third power. How do you prepare for an audition when the character or tone isn't explicitly clear in the casting brief?
I just kind of, I lean back on my training. Obviously, I can't say that this is going to be what's going to work or what's going to happen for everyone. But for me, what I do is, I'm lucky to have that training in improv and scene study and script analysis since I was a child. And I've worked in film, stage, and voiceover, and I've been directed by people who cast things. So I'm pretty comfortable making strong, intentional choices because that's what it is. Your job isn't to read their mind. It's not to guess what someone is wanting or thinking. To make strong, intentional choices, show them what you bring to the table. For anyone who is facing an unclear brief, who I would say trust your instincts, approach it with confidence, approach it the way that makes sense to you. Let them see your perspective on the character in the scene. Because a lot of the times, people don't know what they want until they have it.
I kind of just wing it. I mean, there are many times where I've winged it. And I was
whatever the word is, who knows?
And I was like, I guess it fits. Don't be afraid to experiment, basically. And if you have a core thing that you're sticking to, whether it be this voice that you consistently use, believe in that too, I think. I'm running out of unique things to say from someone, bro. How do you handle rejection or silence after submitting an audition?
So for me, I just don't really, this is also an LA thing. I just don't really think of it as rejection. Because rejection, it implies that someone's actively refusing to accept me or believe in me or consider me or whatever. But that's 90% of the time, that's not what's happening. Mm-hmm. Casting, at its core, it's a selection process. If you're not selected, that doesn't mean that hey, that's a personal thing. It's not a personal slight against you. It just means that someone else happened to be what they wanted at that moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, and it's the same with hearing back. That's also not rejection. A lot of the time, you're not going to hear back just because there's not time to respond to everyone. It's just the nature of the thing because they don't have to interact with you. They're not obligated. Usually, and that's why you'll see a lot of times if they are sending you an email, it's usually going to have something in it to the effect of, we really loved your audition. And they probably did because, again, they don't have to talk to you. But yeah, I let them go pretty quickly after I submit because my job is to do my best, be the performer at that moment. What happens after that, that's not something I can control.
Yeah. It's the thing that we keep going back to, honestly, of like, it's not as personal as we think it is.
The key really, for me at least, I think you need to separate your self-worth from whether or not you book a gig because you're not just the sum of your credits or the number of gigs that you land. Every audition really is an opportunity to grow and to get better and to learn something. And the fact that you showed up and put in the effort, that's a win in and of itself. There's a good friend of mine by the name of Michael Montes, great voiceover person, such a great role model. What I've heard him say, and I really agree with it, is there are two ways to win a race. One is to be the fastest runner. The other is to keep running after everyone else has stopped.
It's so cheesy. Like, you hear this all of the time, but, cheese is cheese for a reason. All right, last question from someone, last but not least. How hard is it to find work that you are actually interested in? And how often do you find yourself taking work that you take out of necessity rather than out of genuine interest/passion?
For me, it's not hard for me to find stuff I'm genuinely interested in just because as a person, I'm interested in a lot of stuff. I take a fair bit of work out of, I don't want to say out of necessity, but because, bills exist and rent is a thing.
Yeah, artists gotta pay
I have
rent.
to pay it. That's why I did a lot of Darman stuff. I just needed money. I hate Darman's content. I can't stand it. But I needed money. I like money.
No, that's so fair. I remember you showing me that Darman content like 3 years ago. I didn't want to say it then because I'd come off as a jackass, but like, I'm not the biggest fan of his content either. I think I'm not really a biggest fan of any philanthropy content, to be honest, and of promoting a higher message. But, like you said, artists got to pay rent. And
like what you like, obviously, but it's not for me. My thing, it's not hard for me necessarily to find stuff I'm interested in, but there's stuff that I don't necessarily want to be doing, even if I am interested in it.
That's fair.
What I do a lot, I would say best. It's one of the pieces of advice that has stuck with me the longest was to treat every audition, every gig, like it's going to be what makes or breaks your career. And so, even if I don't necessarily want to do it, I'll still come at it like it is what I've dreamed of my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens a fair bit.
That's a really nice, passionate mentality, I think. It really shows that you care about what you're doing. We have one more segment titled Flip the Switch. What's your advice for the community to hear? And you've said a lot of advice. So if there's anything that you can remember is some core thing that you would emphasize out of everything you said, what would it be?
I see it a lot with new talent. You guys share way too much about the roles you don't book.
Oh, jeez.
You gotta shut up. I get that, you want to vent or you want to, look for sympathy, and I totally get that. You got to do that with, people personally. You got to do that with your close family and friends. That it hurts your brand. It really does.
Yeah.
Because when you openly talk about oh man, I didn't book this, or this guy didn't cast me for this role I really wanted, what that signals is that you're uncastable. Not necessarily that you can never be cast, right? But it says that or if you're the one who's oh man, this guy didn't cast me, and that guy didn't cast me, and this guy didn't cast me, you're the common denominator. So the assumption is it's probably something you're doing. And the casting directors don't want to take the risk that if it is something you're doing, I don't want to take a risk on how bad that thing you're doing is.
Yeah. Venting in this community in general, you always have to be careful and should be careful with doing, not just industry wise and like voice acting wise.
Right. You should focus on your forward momentum. At least what you talk about publicly should mostly be your forward momentum, your successes. Your personal grief, private. Your wins can be public.
Mm-hmm. I think you should. I mean, hopefully we find spaces to be like comfortable with sharing our accomplishments, and also like I think we tend to like. I was very guilty of this. My friends were very guilty of this starting out in this community of like, we just kind of demean ourselves automatically being like, oh, we're not actually that good. Or like
that annoyed me so much. It still annoys me.
We receive a compliment and we're like barfing and being like, no, like it was a funny joke for a minute and then it fell through really quickly. And we all grew up, matured, and realized that maybe this is not the way to approach our confidence. And I cringe looking back on it, but it starts with small steps. And one of those small steps is allowing yourself to be happy for the accomplishments that you've done, achieved, for everything you've achieved. And it's like, in the professional way, not only does it like hurt your, not only is it not good for your confidence, but it hurts your chances of getting out there.
Just be mindful, I think, would be the biggest one, because it encapsulates everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, be mindful. Shift your mindset. Because I noticed so many of these things that are like, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. They're all mindset based. Like, even the, handling rejection, again, it's just a fact of life that you're not going to book everything. Again, it's a selection process. Not being selected, not the same as being rejected. No one is rejecting you.
Is a much healthier way to approach all of it. Just for us, kind of separating, to be honest, not really much of a separation between this small community of doing it unprofessionally versus professionally of try not to tie.
You just gotta separate your self-worth from was I the one who was picked for this thing?
Yeah.
It's the same reason, if you were to play the lottery, you wouldn't be like, oh man, those bastards stopped me from winning the lottery. You just didn't win the lottery. That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good analogy.
Okay, it's coming to me. I think this is probably going to be the clincher, the cincher. If I had to give a singular piece of advice to the community, it is collaborative and it is an art. You're not just performing at people, you are working with people. Directors, writers, engineers, other actors, blah, 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 blah. They're all part of the process. And your job isn't just to do your part. It is to make their jobs easier. Make each other look good. And obviously, don't skip the fundamentals. Acting it's not about tricks. It's not about shortcuts. Build a solid foundation. Understand what you're doing. Listen actively. Be honest in your performance. If you can do that, focus on those things consistently. The rest falls into place. Respect the process. And you know what? Be kind to others, to yourself. This industry is full of heartbreak and fear and things not going as planned. Again, that's just part of life. Keep showing up, keep learning, trust that the work will pay off, and it will. Cool things happen. Life is just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, very simple message, but that's so true. Life is already tough enough. A lot of us use this platform as escapism from, the wretched horrors. And voice acting is such a great medium to express yourself. So, the world is tough enough as it is. Whatever you're going through, let's just hope that this community stays true to what we love and whom we love. Thanks for listening to this episode of Creators Lightbulb, hosted by Gigi and today's guest, Ellis Bertrell. It was incredibly refreshing to have this new perspective on what it was like, being in the industry into going here now. And you're just a very versatile actor with all these different mediums. And it was so cool to talk to you. Dear listener, I hope you found what you were looking for and enjoyed our discussion. If you did, please stick around for more. Subscribe and stay alert for the next episode by following Creators Lightbulb on Instagram, Blue Sky, and literally wherever you listen to podcasts. You could find me on Instagram and YouTube as Gigi Silver Emblem. Ellis, can you please plug your socials?
I'm on Instagram at Ellis Bertrell Middleton. I'm on Twitter at Ellis Bertrell VA. And I'm on LinkedIn as Ellis Bertrell.
LinkedIn is crazy. Sorry. Plug in the link. Yes. Get. Sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Awesome. All right, everybody. I think that's it. I hope you have a good day. Create and ignite. Remember to stay bright.